Lakeland Currents is sponsored by Nisswa Tax Service. Nisswa Tax Service offers tax preparation for individuals and businesses. Across from City Hall in Nisswa and on the web at nisswatax.com.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Lakeland Currents, where tonight we're going to be talking about two important institutions in Minnesota, especially if you have interest in the fishing world. We're talking about the Minnesota Fishing Museum, located in Little Falls, Minnesota, merging with the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame, which is currently located in Gander Mountain in Baxter. And so tonight we're going to talk about a little bit about what both of these organizations do and what this new merger is going to be all about. And my guests this evening, to my immediate right, are Mavis Buker, who is the Executive Director of the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame. And to her right is Jeff Doty, who is the President of the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame. And they're going to be here to represent also the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame. I said the Hall of Fame, your Fishing Museum. Sorry about that. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And before we talk about the merger that's going to happen, let's just talk a little bit about what does the Fishing Museum do. And I know you've been featured on TV a time or two over the last few years, but probably a lot of people haven't always seen that. And there's so many people that watch this show that this will be a great chance for you to tell them what it is that you're doing at the Fishing Museum in Little Falls.
Of course, Ray. I'd be happy to talk about it. The Fishing Museum, as you said, is located in Little Falls. It started in 1998. The vision was of our founder, Albert, a gentleman who is now 90 years old and very much an active part of our museum. But his vision was to preserve the fishing history as done by the ordinary people that used fishing gear, that did the fishing in the state of Minnesota. So he started collecting. He was a lifelong fisherman, as was his father before him, and had a huge collection and had a desire to share that with others. So he contacted people he knew, and they contacted people they knew, and before you knew it, all kinds of artifacts came together. And Al found a location for his museum and then formed a nonprofit corporation, which became the Minnesota Fishing Museum and Education Center. And that's who we are today. We have, like to say that in our land of 10,000 artifacts, we have over 10,000, in our land of 10,000 lakes, we have over 10,000 artifacts related to fishing. And we may or may not, I haven't counted every single fish hook there yet, but it certainly some days feels like it. And our mission really is to share that history, to pass it on to the next generation of fisher people, to recognize individuals and businesses who have contributed to the history and the fishing in Minnesota, and then to educate and provide education for people regarding fishing, the environment, everything related to it.
So when is this open? When can people come and actually view what's on in the museum?
We are a year-round facility. Our summer hours from April through October are closed on Monday. We are open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, and then on Sunday afternoons from noon until 4. And then once we get past November, December, January, February, our hours change frequently. We do close on occasions to update displays. We attend workshops or seminars. So we always have our hours then posted on our website, or you can call and get the hours at that time too. And we're always open by appointment. If anyone wants to come and visit us, we'll have somebody there whenever it's convenient for you.
This is a little unusual when you look at museums around the country. It's unusual in the sense that it was really one or two people that started this from scratch. There was no official capacity. They weren't connected to the DNR or any big fish organizations, were they? This is a couple of individuals who just saw the need to preserve what's going on in our history, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's very organic. We have only one full-time employee, that is myself. We have one part-time person, and the vast majority of the work gets accomplished by volunteers. We have community volunteers, we have an all-volunteer board, and of course Jeff is the president of our board, and everything he does for the museum is on a volunteer basis. We've been very fortunate to have a broad base of community support in the central Minnesota area.
So the founder was not from Little Falls.
Correct.
He was from Sartell. How did it come to be that he ended up putting the museum in Little Falls?
In Little Falls. When Al first began the search for a location, he went everywhere he could think of that might be a good fit. He talked to city councils, he talked to some businesses and organizations, and people didn't quite grasp his vision of what he wanted to accomplish. When he approached the city council in Little Falls, and they listened, and they could see the vision that he had and the passion he had to make it all happen. And so with the support of our local city council in Little Falls, he was able to find a location and to secure some grant money, some loans, some funding, some donations. Started very, very small and then grew and grew and grew. And every year the museum has increased its budget and succeeded in meeting that budget. It has grown in the number of artifacts and displays available. It has grown in the amount of volunteer hours. So every measure that I could find to measure success at this point, the museum is highly successful.
So for a person who's walking in from Nebraska, what are they going to see when they come into this museum?
Oh, goodness. What aren't you going to see? I think we've got a very good grasp of Minnesota's fishing history. There are a lot of antique motors, antique rods, reels. There are fish displays. We have all the state record fish all the way around the perimeter. That part's pretty exciting. We have an old cabin that's in the 1930s genre, so you can peek through the door and the window to see what an old fishing camp cabin might look like. We also have a winter diorama in the back, and in the winter diorama you have angling houses, an old Skidoo snowmobile. You look like you're looking right through you can see the fish holes through the ice, and we have cutouts out of the fish houses so you can look in and look down the hole, and it's I really like the way we display things. We're not a cookie cutter museum, and I think that's when Mavis used the word organic. I use the term we're very earthy, or very common, down to earth kind of approach to the way we display things at the museum.
And you're located where?
We are on, it's West Broadway is the street in Little Falls. It's actually Highway 27 as it runs east and west through the city of Little Falls. We are just 2 blocks west of the Mississippi River.
And I know one of the challenges that you've talked about over the years is that's maybe not the best for visibility, because you've got that major trunks that come through to the east side of town, and the museum is not located on the east side of town, so you've got to really kind of go out of your way to find the museum. But it still has seemed to have worked well. And I think you said that you've got a lot more not displayed than you've got displayed, or a lot of things that are in storage that you just don't have the space for right now.
Correct.
When you do merge with the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame, that will be an issue I'm sure you're going to address, as space.
Exactly. We are very aware, and have been for some time, that we are fast outgrowing the space that we have available just with the museum collections. And we have talked about merging with the Hall of Fame, and that has now happened. And along with that merger then, there has been a committee established to begin that process of looking for a suitable location with the goal of probably building a facility which will house the collections of the museum. It will house the displays and collections of the Minnesota Fishing Hall of Fame. And a third piece that is close to the hearts of all involved is an education center. We envision a place where we can conduct classes, do some hands-on things, whether it would be rod building or tying line, or how to cast, or whatever it might be related to fishing or environment. And so having a space to meet and to conduct educational activities is really important for us, and that would also be a part of a new facility.
And I've been somewhat involved in both organizations, so I know a little bit about both of them. And your organization, I think it's fair to say, has been much more organized than the Hall of Fame has been the last few years. It's probably not been quite as well organized. Probably didn't have the resources to do some of the things they would like to have done. But maybe you could just sort of differentiate what the mission has been between the two. How are they different?
Okay. Certainly. We are actually more similar than different when we really look at it. As far as the Hall of Fame goes, their primary function has been to recognize the people who have contributed to the whole culture of fishing in Minnesota. And secondarily, to pass that on to other generations and to educate regarding fishing. Our primary focus has been to display the artifacts of fishing with a secondary emphasis on recognizing individuals, and then thirdly with the education. So when the two come together, the beautiful fit is that we're basically doing some of the same things. We have the strong emphasis on the historic artifacts. The collections of the Hall of Fame have the emphasis on the individuals and businesses, and together that space that we both have a passion and a heart for is that education. And so coming together, it just seems to complete it very beautifully.
Starting a business, starting a Hall of Fame, or starting a museum is a challenge. Keeping it going is a bigger challenge, as we all know. And how, up till this point, how does the Fishing Museum keep going? How do you get your funds? What keeps you in operation?
We have several streams of income, if you will, that keep us going. First of all, we do have an admission fee for visiting. So our visitors help to support us just by coming to the museum. It's a small fee, $4 for students and $5 for adults. But that's a piece of it. We, in the museum, have a gift shop, and so the purchases people make at our gift shop support us as well. So that's a second. We have memberships. Many museums and organizations have memberships to belong, and we likewise do have memberships available. That's a third for us. We do conduct fundraisers in the sense that any other nonprofit organization is out doing fundraising. And in our case, we also do benefit from charitable gambling. There are several facilities that have pull tabs, and they have designated their proceeds of their charitable gambling to support the Minnesota Fishing Museum. So all those pieces coming together have given us what we need to survive and to thrive and now to grow.
There is the National Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame in Hayward, Wisconsin.
Correct.
And I would guess that's probably the closest museum in the upper 5 states, isn't it? Besides you?
Related to our
Fishing?
topic, yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
When you talk about merging, I know there's been real strong feelings about maybe keeping the museum in the Little Falls area, and there used to be strong feelings about keeping the hall in the Brainerd-Nisswa area because this is where so much history has happened. Was that a challenge to overcome when you started talking?
Yeah, I would say that's a reasonable statement. And the thing about it is that I think we began the discussions 5 years ago when Ron Shera had his bass fishing tournament out on Gull Lake. And so we talked about the possibility of the two organizations coming together. And Ron's, he said, Little Falls, he said, you're kind of not in the middle of things. And I said, we might be a little better located than you give us credit for. The advantage to Little Falls, if we get out on the highway, is that just north of Little Falls, the highway splits where Highway 10 goes up to the Perham, Battle Lake, all that fishing area up in the Detroit Lakes area. That's one road that goes out of there, and then the second road goes north through Brainerd and Bemidji and all the northern lakes areas. So if we can locate, prior to the split, and then we end up with a tremendous amount of visibility. Right now, daily traffic flows past the areas are in the 21,000 cars a day, and then on weekends, in excess of 60,000 cars go by. So in terms of exposure, we have more exposure than people give us credit for.
So is it ideally that you're going to probably try to look for property or a building in that Little Falls area? Is that sort of the thinking now?
Yeah, I would say so, because that's one of the things that the museum part of it is kind of more of a stickler on. The community of the Little Falls was, quite frankly, the only community that stepped up to the plate when it came to establishing the museum, and there's a certain amount of loyalty there.
Sure.
And I think that's reasonable. Mm-hmm. And if it made sense to be, if there was a place further south where Highway 94 and Highway 10 were together, at some point, that would be probably the ultimate location, because that would have the most traffic flow past there, and that's a big, strong consideration.
I know that the Hall of Fame, how they've operated in the past, they have a board. I would guess they still have a board.
Yep.
And they would nominate people for the hall. And I know that the Hall of Fame was located for a while in Walker at Reed's, and I know it was located for a while in Baxter at Reed's, and then it's now currently in Gander Mountain at Reed's.
Yeah.
And how are they still nominating candidates for the Hall of Fame?
Yes, and the process has been, the first class of inductees was in the year 2000, and I think the biggest amount of credit for this probably goes to Jeff Arnold, who is the owner of Reed's. And he had a vision to see that there would be recognition provided to those people that had done significant things in the fishing industry in the state of Minnesota. And so the first group of inductees was in the year 2000, and at that time it was at Reed's. He had recently expanded and was trying to provide this educational facility, and I'm making an assumption here is that it wasn't sustainable at that location because there wasn't enough traffic through there and everything. Then when he opened the store here in Baxter, he moved the Fishing Hall of Fame down here, and there was a whole dock section where you could walk through this dock section and see all of the inductees, and then there was a place over in the corner where the kids could color on fish pictures and all that kind of stuff, and it was nicely done. And then when Gander Mountain bought out the Reed store here in Brainerd, then they transferred the Fishing Hall of Fame to Gander Mountain here, and Gander has housed it ever since.
And I would guess and I know you're not on the board of the hall, but I'm guessing if people wanted to nominate candidates, they could still go to a website from the Hall of Fame. I would guess
Right.
Do you still maintain separate websites?
Yes, we're maintaining when we talked about the merger, that was one of the things that we wanted to do, was to maintain the identity of each organization, because each has been successful in doing what they do, and by maintaining the Hall of Fame as its own identity and the Fishing Museum as its own identity, even when we end up sharing a facility, I think that talks about the strengths of each organization, and it allows people to become involved in either or both, however they wish.
So ideally, you see this facility as having an educational center and then a museum, basically, and the hall would be in the museum in its own area, probably. Is that how are you that far along in envisioning?
Probably a three-legged stool there. The museum, the Hall of Fame, and the education center. I would say that's a very, three-legged stools are the most stable here.
Yes. Right. Well, that's a pretty cool concept, and personally, I'm glad to see that merger is happening, because I think it will strengthen both of your organizations. Yeah. If someone were interested in making contributions to the museum, how do they go about doing that?
I'll let you take that
All righty. We have an office at the museum in Little Falls, so one could call us on the phone, and we would be happy to give you information. We also have a website. It is mnfishingmuseum.com. And on there, they can be directed as to, again, making contributions or volunteering time or donating artifacts. We are still receiving artifacts from folks and are always happy to consider items to add to the collection as well.
And are those tax deductible issues?
Yes, in all cases, simply because we are a nonprofit organization, so obviously cash donations, but also in-kind donations are deductible to the extent of the law regarding what their value would be. So oftentimes people come to that point when they're ready to downsize or go through things and eliminate some of the baggage they've had with them. And by the fact that we do have the ability to give folks a receipt for a tax deduction, it can oftentimes be helpful to them in that way as well.
So, and I know you sometimes get duplicates. And what do you do with those? When you get motors, you've got a dozen of them already.
Everybody has a 5-horse Johnson from the 1950s.
I don't.
Oh, okay. You're probably one of the few. What we do is, of course, we like to keep the nicest and those in the best condition for display in the museum collection itself. That's pretty much a standard procedure. Then with duplicates, we do a couple of things. We have traveling displays where, for instance, we go to maybe a county fair or we go to an event and people ask us if we'd like to set up a small display to kind of represent the museum. So some of those duplicates get used in that capacity. They're things that we can take out with us. If they're lost or damaged, it's not quite as severe a loss as if we lost a prime piece from our major collection. Thirdly, we do, upon occasion, have those house cleaning sales where items that we cannot use in the museum itself or for our traveling displays are sold to the public. And we make that really clear to people when they donate them so that they're fully aware when they're donating as to that is always a possibility. And then when that happens, those proceeds come back to support the ongoing work of the museum. But typically the people who buy those things are folks who have a real passion or a desire to collect those wonderful old things themselves. So most of those lovingly donated items also find really good homes when they do leave our possession.
So do you have someone in the organization that can help people determine the value of these items when they make donations?
We have a lot. Here's where a lot of our volunteer help comes in, and occasionally we do hire professional appraisers. We have volunteers who are collectors in their own right who will look at something. Maybe there's a fellow who knows lures very, very well, so I'll call my lure fella and say, I've got some things here, come and tell me what you think. We do a lot of research ourselves. You can do it online, you can look things up, get a picture of it, see what it's worth. We might call a couple of collectors and say, I've got such and such, tell me what you think it's worth, and people are very helpful in giving us a general ballpark on that. Last year we received a collection of decoys. There were 110 decoys in this collection, and we did hire a professional appraiser to come and go through them and give us his professional opinion on those. So it goes between volunteers that help us, people on our board that are very knowledgeable, and when needed we call professional help.
I will give a little disclaimer here. We really don't have the staff and the number of volunteers for everyone in the viewing area to call up and ask the museum what their old Evinrude is worth. So now that allows me an opportunity to kind of say we never have enough volunteers. One of the hardest things with a 501c3 is to get enough volunteers to get the work done. Right now, we're able to get by, but we could do so much more.
So you're always looking for help.
Yeah, we're always looking for help. If someone can, type into a computer, if someone has an interest in old lures, if someone just wants to take and clean up old fishing rods, we can use just all the help that people can muster.
What's the name of the new place going to be called?
The new organization is going to be called, and I have to do this with a physical prop here, the Minnesota Fishing Museum - Hall of Fame and Education Center.
Cool.
It's a lot of words, but it's very descriptive.
Sure.
And we want to make sure that as we pursue funding opportunities later on, that we include all those components, because we want to make sure avail ourselves of every possibility. Maybe some people, just love being able to do education stuff for kids. Well, we want to give them that opportunity. And maybe some people just really love the idea of the Hall of Fame, and we want them to avail them as well. And the same thing with the museum component as well.
We have just a couple minutes left, but in the next stages, what's happening? You've agreed to the merger, you've agreed to the concept of how you're going to merge. What's next?
Well, right now we have established someone to help us, since we're all volunteers, looking at properties. But before that, looking at the visioning. We've had visioning sessions already, and then that's going to develop into a business plan. And then once the business plan's in place, then we start finding ways to meet the expectations of that business plan, which includes the vision. And then once that's done, then we end up finding a suitable location to meet that standard, whether it's 2 lots or whether it's 30 acres. We don't know yet, because we're just getting really started into the process. Probably a 2 or a 3 year process before we get this all done.
It's a big jump.
Mm-hmm. It's very exciting, and it's also very scary.
Well, I think there's 2 people here who are leading the charge that have passion for this. I know you have done a great job, Mavis, and I know, Jeff, you've been in the fishing industry like I have for a long time, more on the hard ice side of it than me. But this, I think, is great for Minnesota to have this new destination in the planning. And it's a tribute, I think, to the industries and the people who have spent their lives in the fishing industry in Minnesota. I think that's just a great thing. Yeah. Thank you both for being on the show. Appreciate it very much, and we'll be following your progress very carefully.
And we'll make you proud.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. You've been watching Lakeland Currents, where we're talking about what you're talking about. I'm Ray Gildow. So long until next time.